Hello there, I'm Big Alias. I'm thinking about stuff, man. Like I keep seeing this. I keep seeing this everywhere. I watch a lot of, Moist Critical, Curtis Connor, Jarvis Johnson. These people who like have snarky conversations on the internet about other people, and it's fun. Like, it's good. They make good content out of it, and it's great. This isn't a complaint about them. I think all of these guys are great, and I love watching their stuff. But they always come back around to these prank people on YouTube. And it just gets me thinking every time. And I don't know how to flesh this out, because I don't know if I have a solid thesis, for this, because it's just so bizarre to me, the overall feeling towards this. It reminds me of I call it the talking in a cinema notion, which is that everyone hates it. Everyone hates people who do it. So who is doing it, and why is it being done, and why is it pervasive? Of course, in this sense, there is something to be gained from it. Like, you talk in a cinema, then you're just having a conversation with someone while the movie's going on. You're just being obnoxious, and that's your thing. But when these prank channels do well, there must be a reason they're doing it, right? There must be a reason that they think it makes money, and they think that it makes them popular, etc., so on and so forth. But why do they feel that way? And why is this feeling being perpetuated? And why is it so pervasive? Why is this popping up again? And I think the most interesting thing about prank stars is that this is not the first wave. I don't know if everyone remembers, but we had a lot of prank stars, what are they? In the mid-2010s. And they went away because it sucked, because they were not very good, and people didn't like it, And initially there was the punch of, oh, this is something a bit different. Who's the guy, Remy Gaillard, and so on and so forth. At least they were doing something imaginative and creative with it. I remember the Super Mario Kart one, and stuff like that, and that's great. At least they were trying something. But then, of course, as is always the case, the internet gets hold of something, dilutes it, makes it sucky, oversaturates the entire internet with it, and then it goes away because people get bored of it. That's what happens with online content. But in this case, it's interesting because this really is the second wave, and it's so much less imaginative and less creative, and even worse. It's almost as if the cycle of it kept, the trail of it kept diluting and distilling. But we didn't watch that. We didn't see that happening. And then people just popped up again and were like, oh, this is how much is distilled over this time, by the way. Now it's just even worse. We have people walking into other people's houses and calling it a prank. We have people stealing other people's dogs and, pretending that they're going to run off with the dog and calling it a prank. This is just not good. There's nothing to it. There's no creativity, not a creative bone on this body. People go into supermarkets dropping shit on the floor, or pretending to make someone else pay for your stuff by scanning the barcode. This is not imaginative or creative, or this isn't done with a wink and a nod, and it's not tongue-in-cheek. It's just disruptive. And it bugs me that we even still call them pranks, because they're not pranks. It's just being disruptive. I think we should have a new tagline for this, a new name for this. This is not the same breed. It's not the same content. Yes, like I said, it is a distilled version of these pranks, but it's so heavily distilled that I just don't think that they're pranks anymore. I don't see how dropping a carton of milk on the floor and making someone who by all stretches of the imagination should not be cleaning that up, come along and clean that up. I don't see how that's the same as what they were doing on Jackass, when someone will come along and you hit one with a big giant hand. I just don't see how that's the same thing. The pipeline is kind of there, but it's not exactly there. And I just don't know where it's coming from. I kind of feel like a bit of an old man screams at the sky. I don't know where the views are coming from, whether it's just hate views, whether it's a form of doom scrolling. People just want to be annoyed. What is it? Anger bait? Is that what it's called? I don't like anger bait. I don't like any of that. And it's so lame. All of it is just so lame. You're going out and doing this and disrupting people's days, and from what I can tell, the only reason you're doing it is to make people annoyed. Why don't you just yell something racist in the street or something like that? Why don't you just do that? That will take even less effort for you. But there's just no rhyme or reason to it. There's nothing cool about it. There's no imaginative thought going into it. And it's kind of, I guess the reason it makes me so sad is because the internet was always like this beautiful thing for me, and I could go on, all day about this, and maybe one day I will. And I don't like the fact that, like we had this opportunity to create our own stuff and not have to go through a billion different processes and funding and stuff like that in order to make something cool. And now we have, just some of the awful content that we have now, and it was never that great to begin with, but at least people were, writing scripts or coming up with something interesting and new, and that just doesn't seem to be the case anymore. There's a big difference between, even one of the crappy YouTubers back then writing an awful comedy sketch and someone just walking into someone's house and saying, "Hey, content," it's just lame. I don't know. I really don't have an end point for this one. I don't have a cyclical end to it. There's no wrap up point. I just don't like this form of content, and I think it's just so lame. And it feels like low hanging fruit. Like there's no effort, just nothing interesting. And what are people going to celebrate through this? Even like I said, even a tacky, crappy comedy sketch, people can celebrate the way that the person's joke sort of turned in on itself, or whether there was some sort of clever conclusion. There's no conclusion here. It's just awful. I guess we'll see everyone later.
The PlayStation is only $149, and you can also get leading titles.